In this lesson, we're going to take a closer look at the Acid Pro track list. The track list is this area to the left-hand side in the main window. It contains all of our tracks. I'm going to expand that a little bit so we can see it a little better. Each track has a number and a name. It can also be minimized and expanded to get a better look at it. So let's double click over here on our scroll bar to the far right of the screen, which expands them to a normal zoom level. You can see the name. And if I scroll over here to the right and move this bar, it expands the track list even further. I can see the name of each track, which in these cases is based on the loop that I used when I created my project. This one is currently unnamed. Each track has the same controls. You've got a volume control with a slider, pan control with a slider, arming for record. I've got a bus control where I click that and I can assign where I want the sound to be routed through. This is going to bus E, which I've named bass. Here you've got guitar fuzz. So everything with C on it is going to the same bus. You can see that I've got several buses at work here. Here is track effects and FX automation. If I click track effects, I can assign and chain different track effects to my audio. So let's select a Sony Audio Effects, Acid FX, click Add, press OK. Now I can change my parameters. Let's say add more distortion and some flange. Close this window, and now that effect is added to this track. Not the others, but just that track. If I want effects to be added to multiple tracks, I can route them through the same bus in my mixer and assign effects to the bus. Alright, but that's a little farther ahead. We can also control automation, and when we're playing, I can mute or solo that track. Let's undo the effect and begin to play. And what you're seeing, the timeline moving across the screen. This is where we are at in the music. And each one of these tracks has certain events which are in the timeline. You can see which ones are playing now and which ones are coming up. Now you'll notice at the top here, there's several small lines. That's because I've got the percussion in a track folder. So if I click the plus, I can expand that track folder, show all the tracks inside of it. So I've got several different percussion tracks going here. Okay. Now, let's say we want to solo a track. We press the exclamation point, which turns off all the other tracks, and we can just hear the solo track. If you click on another track, you can solo more than one at a time. So I've got my MIDI and my fuzz guitar going together. I can also turn them all on and then mute selected tracks. Let's mute this fuzz guitar here. You can also mute everything in the folder, which is to say everything in this percussion folder. Now I'm just hearing my hydroponic and my MIDI clip. That's very, very useful to be able to mute or solo tracks. You can also expand the track by dragging the bar that separates each track so I can see more information. You can also see what type of track it is, whether it's a loop or whether it's a beat map or it's a one-time. For example, this little arrow right there indicates this is not a loop, it's a one-shot track, whereas the circle indicates a loop. If I click on this loop name, I can see that I may have several clips associated with this track, and to be able to paint them on the track list with my mouse. I just have one in this case. But my MIDI, I've got all of these clips. I can select a clip, in this case MIDI clip 2, come to a point in the track window here, paint that on. Track list is really, really cool thing. A lot of power. And here's a MIDI track here, which contains some slightly different information. I can select my input. I can also select what synth I'm routing the MIDI through. In this case, soft synth 1. But then it can also assign automation, mute, and solo just like the other tracks. Okay, you can reorder the tracks by clicking and dragging them up or down. And you can maximize them. For example, let's maximize the MIDI track by clicking that button, which fills the entire window with this track. There's a ton of stuff you can do with the track list. Over time, you get the hang of it. It's going to go just very, very smoothly. All right, I think we can wrap this lesson up. You should now be able to use track list